Hello again, and welcome to another of Mosaic's coffee breaks. Mosaic is, of course, a collaboration of the organisations shown at the front of this presentation, and that collaboration focuses very much on the ownership issues associated with mid-market law firms. And when we say ownership, we mean everything associated with ownership, mergers and acquisitions, partnership structures, succession planning, partner exits, and everything associated with all of those issues. I hope you enjoy this broadcast.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the latest Mosaic Coffee Break, where I'm joined by my colleagues Howard Hackney, Barry Wilkinson, and Paul Bennett. And this much-awaited broadcast is the Mosaic New Year crystal ball gazing. So from each of us, you're going to get a short view as to what we see happening in 2023. And if we can start by asking Paul to tell us what he sees on the horizon.
I think increasingly we're going to see noise in the legal sector around regulation. There's a lot of interest around consumer protection from the regulators. The regulators have all been on manoeuvres for a little while, and I think that's going to affect the business decisions that some firms choose to take over the next 2 to 3 years. Certainly the call, we're recording this on the 12th of January, the call from the new Bar Council head this week for the LSB to come under some scrutiny echoes an article I wrote sort of 2.5 years ago saying what's the point of the LSB and let's scrap it. So I think legal reform is an obvious one. If I dare add a second, I think merger activity that's been delayed because of the pandemic and people wanting to see how firms reacted to the pandemic, particularly with the conveyancing stamp duty holiday, I'm seeing a lot of interest in that space at the moment, and I suspect we're going to be in a boom time for mergers and acquisitions over the next 18 to 24 months.
Thank you, Paul. Barry, what does it look like from your perspective?
Well, as an accountant and one-time failed economist, I think it all depends on the economy. I'm a little bit concerned. We've been a bit like the boy crying wolf in previous years and saying it's going to be a doom and gloom. But even the government doesn't appear to be trying to convince us that things are all right at the moment. And if, as I suspect, I'm just looking, as Paul said, it's early January. The new matter openings in December and the first half of January appear to have been pretty poor across my client base. I think if the property market turns down, it takes the rest of the economy with it. That in turn, for my client base, who are largely what I would call high street plus firms, so, a few £1 million turnover, but maybe 20 to 25% of that in residential property, then a shrinkage in the property market will affect turnover, will affect business margins. That will then put the emphasis on cost control, and I think it could well change the state of the market for recruitment as well, which people will not now be wanting to leave something that they've got some employment rights in. But the other thing, I think, just again referring to what Paul was saying a moment ago, is I think there will actually be a need for consolidation in order to try and share overheads, which I have to say over the years hasn't been a particularly successful strategy for law firms. The costs do tend to creep back in. So I think it's going to be a continuation of a theme which I suggested several years ago and never changed my mind, is that the good will get better and the struggling ones will struggle even more. And I think, again, although there is a lot of interest in buying, I think firms are only going to buy something decent. I don't think that struggling firms are going to find an easy way out.
I couldn't agree more, Barry. Howard.
Let's be, well, not necessarily upbeat, but the thing that we can almost guarantee is going to be on the uppermost in people's minds is fairly arcane, referred to as the change in the basis period for taxation. Now, what does that mean? Basically, it means that in the tax year 2023-24, law firms are going to have, who don't have a 31st of March or 5th of April year end, are highly likely to have a one-off additional large hit for tax in that year because of this arcane thing of changing the basis period. So every firm is going to be treated as though they have a 31st of March year end, and it's going to cause an administrative nightmare. The relatively good news is we do away with this thing that lawyers and accountants love or hate, overlap relief. Overlap relief will be used up, and will disappear for the future. But it does mean that the big hit in tax, like to be a big hit in tax, and that law firms should be planning to actually change their year end to save on significant administrative costs in the future, to change their year end to the 31st of March. They don't have to, but vast majority of my clients, well, all of my clients are going to change to the 31st of March, but don't do it to March 23, it's March 24, because there is the ability to spread this tax hit over a 5-year period. Now, you can't spread it if you change your year end to 31st of March 23. You can only do it if it's in the 24 year. And there is a question of, do you spread it or not? Because you're spreading the taxable profits rather than spreading the tax. So therefore, if tax rates go up in the next 5 years, you'll be increasing your tax liability. So there's a big question. Do you pay it all at once next year? And do you have the cash flow to do so, or do you spread it? So that's a near certainty. Unless the government changes their mind, that's a near certainty that that will happen. And don't think that 23-24 is a long way off. Anyone who's got a 30th of April 23 year end is bang into the middle of that planning. They need to start planning it now.
An interesting perspective, that, Howard, and very different. So thank you for that. From my perspective, I've just got 3 things that I would like to talk about in terms of the year ahead. One is very much in line with Barry's talk. I host a managing partners group on Zoom. We meet fortnightly, and I think it is clear that the new matter opening stats in property and private client disciplines have been down through December and January. I do see, well, we're in recession now. Most predictions suggest this recession will last into 2024. So I'm expecting quite significant declines in property work, in private client work, even in family work. But I made the same prediction in 22 and the same prediction in 21, and I was wrong both times there.
Snap.
I think also echoing comments from Paul and Barry, I do think that I wouldn't exactly expect a tidal wave of consolidation in the sector next year, but I think we're going to see an acceleration in merger activity. And I think what we're really seeing now is the squeezed middle, aren't we? Barry's strugglers and stragglers are being left behind, and the firms in that sort of 4 to 14 million bracket are all talking to each other or to private equity or to consolidators. So I think we're going to see a lot more activity in there. And the third thing, which I can say with much more confidence than what I've said about the first 2 points, is that, as is previous years, I've been proved to be completely wrong with all of my predictions. So my third point is, ignore everything you've heard on this broadcast, apart possibly from Howard's point on the change of basis here. We're almost certainly going to be wrong about everything.
On that note, I don't know whether you've ever read Nazim Nicholas Taleb's book, Skin in the Game. So it's damning, by the way, of all lawyers and professional advisors, unless they've got skin in the game.
Yes.
But there's a line that really sticks from one of the early chapters in my mind, which is the only certainty with economists is that, other than those that got lucky, they all got it wrong, and the ones that got lucky are like a broken clock; they're right twice a day. So we mustn't be too hard on ourselves if our predictions don't come true. Is in the wise words of Nazim Nicholas Taleb, who's a professor of, I think, 3 different disciplines.
Nice
to
we
have it.
haven't had a chance.
I'm having dinner with Patrick Minford next week, so I will remember that line.
And
I was just
go on, Barry.
I was just going to say on your squeeze middle, the term I've used for a few years on that is the reverse Goldilocks situation.
Yeah.
And that there are a lot of firms who are too big to be run on a very tight, low overhead basis, but don't have enough income to justify the infrastructure that they've got. And I think that's the area which is going to come, as you say, under a squeeze, because cost pressures are not going to go away.
No.
And if the markets for the various areas you describe do go soft, then it's going to be back round almost 10 years ago.
Anyway, gentlemen, thank you all for your contributions, and to our viewers again, a final wishing of Happy New Year to you all. I hope these prognostications have not depressed you. There's plenty to look forward to, and I'm sure the challenges ahead are something that we're all looking forward to helping you with. So from all of us at Mosaic, cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.